change is the only constant. So be open to it. Hey y'all, welcome to Meryl's Mystic. I'm Meryl, and I empower witches, bitches, and dudes to complete themselves in order to have healthier soulmate relationships and more purpose-filled lives. And today we're here to talk about upcoming Cancer season. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, right as I start, the train is going by. You can probably hear the train. I have to have the windows open because my house is almost 100 years old, and it's hot in Colorado right now, and I can't have the fan in here because then you wouldn't be able to hear me. So you get a little more skin this time, because I kept trying to wear my little cute little shrouds that I have, but it is way too hot, and I spent way too much time on this face to let it sweat off. So I wanted to share with you also kind of my style of reading, because I haven't really done that lately. I am a certified tarot reader. I am an astrology junkie. I've been doing astrology longer, but I don't have a full scope knowledge of it. For some reason, I'm still like grasping all the houses and the conjunctions and like the whole chart thing. It's a lot. But I know enough to connect it with a lot of the tarot stuff. And then I'm also a psychic medium, and I've been really focusing on strengthening those skills that I have. And so there's a combination of reading the cards, but also just like receiving and hearing the messages from my guides and your guides, and just the universe and the divine in general. And also I've been really tapping into the messages that I've been just receiving over the last like decade or so, when I really kind of started being on this path. And the image of the bridge always comes up for me. There's very much, my purpose on this earth is to be a healer. And that really means to help empower you to heal yourself, and to be a bridge from the physical to the spiritual, and also to be a mirror. And that is why I share a lot of personal stories with you, is because I'm hoping that my experience and all the lessons I've been learning are gonna shine some light on maybe your experiences and the lessons that you're meant to learn here also. Because I truly believe that we're meant to come to Earth to do work together. This is where the work happens. This is where the lessons are learned. And so my goal is to share the natural energy with you during these natural cycles, because I really believe the more we're in touch with that, then we're more in tune with ourselves. And the more we're in tune with ourselves, the more we can be in harmony with each other in the collective. So anyway, here we are. It is almost the summer solstice. It's warming up, so it's almost officially summer. So it is the start of Cancer season, and Cancer season goes from June 21st to July 22nd, and it is represented by the crab, and it is a cardinal sign because we are at the beginning of a season, and all the cardinal signs are at the beginning of seasons. So Cancer season really helps. Gemini season ushered out spring, and Cancer season ushers in summer. So the other cool thing about Cancer season starting is the day after, on June 22nd, Mercury goes direct. I think it's still in Gemini. I don't know for how long, but there will be like a 2 to 3 week shadow period after that. So although it's great to hear that it's gone direct, because this was quite a retrograde. It was kind of the retrograde of retrogrades, and there were definitely many times where I was like, I know how to go through retrograde. I've practiced this, and I'm gonna take anything that comes at me and any delays, with grace, and that was of course my goal. And I was sharing that with you also, because it really does help get through without like having any major breakdowns. And I don't want it to sound like I'm that person who's like blaming retrograde. However, these things do seem to just happen. I mean, it's just this is cosmic energy. We're affected by the cycles of the moon. Like, our bodies are mostly water. The oceans are connected to that. Like, Mercury is a very close planet. Like, we have like the chemicals of stars in us. So to think that we have no connection and that it has no effect on us just kind of seems silly to me at this point, when there is some science to back up our connection to the universe and to the planets. So just be aware, like, when it goes direct, we don't want to be just like, yeah, like, even though, like, we want to remember that there's still kinks being worked out in those last couple weeks, if there were some lessons that you didn't learn, and nobody comes out of it unscathed, is my point. I've definitely had my moments, but I've definitely, the more retrogrades go on, and the more I'm just kind of tapped into it and prepared, I have less moments during it. And also, it just gives me a little bit of peace of mind, and it has kind of allowed me to just, like, not try to control so much. And that's a lot about it, is, like, really just, like, trusting where you are, trusting that you're supported by the universe and spirit and the divine, and that these things are happening for a reason, too. These delays are happening for a reason. The miscommunications are happening for a reason. It's funny because I was trying to think of an example of when these things are meant to happen. And the thing I thought about, I can't say for sure that this happened to me during retrograde, but it was a very retrograde, or I should say Mercury retrograde, because not all retrogrades are the same. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But this was a very Mercury retrograde moment. I was like 24, I think. Yeah, I would have been about 24, 25. My mom, I lived in New York for a couple years, and when I decided I wanted to come home, because I was too sensitive for New York, it was great, but it was too much. My mom came and picked me and all my stuff up, and we've been doing road trips for all my life, so she's like a pro driver across country, and she just, like, got her snacks. She barely ever has to stop to pee. Like, she just, like, drives. And she picked me up, and so we packed all my stuff up, and we decided to, like, make a trip of it on the way back. Like, we love road trips. What are we going to see on the way back? So, of course, from New York to Colorado, we had to stop at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is actually in Cleveland, Ohio, because that's where the first rock and roll radio station came from. And if you ever remember the Drew Carey show, like, and their whole thing about, like, Cleveland rocks, like, there's a history there of kind of where rock and roll music, like, the expansion of it really started. And I love rock and roll. I love all music, but there's so many aspects to rock and roll, and it's heavily its influence is so heavy in other types of music. And on a side note, I highly recommend the PBS documentary Rumble, because that really explores how the majority of our rock and roll and, like, rhythm and blues music actually is, its roots are mostly with Native Americans, and there's a lot of roots to rock and roll music that is directly tied to Native American indigenous tribes drumming and the rhythms of their drumming. And it's really cool. Rumble, like, deep history of rock and roll documentary. Go watch it. Understand where your music comes from. Miles Davis is also the reason why we have, like, electronic music and jam bands. So go watch a documentary about Miles Davis too. Anyway, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Cleveland, Ohio. I am, like, we are so excited. we called my brother when he was there, and he's like, how dare you call me? I'm so jealous. Like, I can't believe you guys would go without me. And we're like, it was an opportunity. I'm so sorry. Like, and so we're walking up to it, and it's this really cool, like, pyramid-shaped building, and they have, like, a featured artist on one floor of the museum. And the featured artist was Bruce Springsteen. And, you know, nothing against the boss if you are a Bruce Springsteen fan, but I am not the biggest Bruce Springsteen fan. And there's definitely, like, I appreciate his contribution to music a little bit more now. There's a couple of his songs I really like, and there's a couple of his songs that I really like that other bands cover, and I'm a fan of other bands that have been influenced by him, but at the time I was like, I do not like Bruce Springsteen. I don't care that much about the boss, about this, like, white boy American dream. Like, even then I was just like, blah. So we walk up, and it's fucking Bruce Springsteen, and I'm just like, really? Really right now? Like, his face is, like, on this banner on the building, and I'm just so, like, oh, like, my mom's like, come on, like, it's okay, like, we just won't go on that level. And I'm like, yeah, but now we're not going to see the whole, like, museum. So that place is way bigger than you think it is, and there's so much to look at. I mean, my mom and I were literally, like, tearing up when we walked in there because of, you feel so close to these artists that have just, like, helped shape our lives and our society. I think we don't even, I mean, we give, like, musicians and stuff a lot of credit, but even then, like, there's so much influence there. And it turned out that we didn't even have time to see the whole museum. And guess what floor we were able to miss? Bruce Springsteen. So it worked out. That's my point. Short story long. My point is that I initially saw this obstacle as, like, an affront to me and my experience and like all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, when I was young, I took it really personal, and I didn't let it, like, really, I hope I didn't. Looking back now, I don't think I let it completely overshadow the whole experience. But it wasn't until the end where I was like, well, you know, we were like, well, this is perfect, because if that had been somebody that I really admired, like if it had been like Prince or something, like, I would have been so sad if I would have been even sadder than it being the boss if I had to, like, miss any part of that museum. 'Cause it was such a great experience. And I could have, they don't let you take pictures in there. And I could have sworn I took a secret picture of Pink Floyd's The Wall. Like, they have, like, an actual wall in there. And I don't know what happened to that picture. So, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's doing something. Anyway, just joking. So I'm sharing this story with you because I hope that it relates to something that you're going through. That a lot of these things that we think are happening to us, in fact, in the bigger grand scheme of things, a lot of the time are happening for us. And unfortunately, there are some really horrible things that do happen to us. And that's, you know, when we become victimized. But there's a lot of things out there that we get so worked up over that really aren't worth our energy, and that a lot of time work out in the long run. So I hope that gives you, like, a little bit of perspective about what all these lessons and what, like, everything that's kind of, like, been stirring up is really there for. So, speaking of retrogrades, and how retrogrades, depending on what planet it is and what sign it is, can be very different and can give us a very different energy. Each planet has a different energy associated with it. Each sign has a different energy associated with it. So on June 20th, right before we begin Cancer season, Jupiter goes retrograde in Pisces, and then it switches to Aquarius on July 28th. Happy birthday, Mom. Until October 18th. And so Jupiter retrograde is not something to be, afraid of. Like we kind of get afraid of Mercury retrograde. I noticed that the witchy spirit world is really trying to like get people to stop fearing it so much. Like we joke about it and like all this kind of stuff, but like there's really magical things that happen during it that are supposed to happen that really help us like on our path in life and what our path of purpose and where we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to be doing. So Jupiter in retrograde will be really nice, especially in Pisces and Aquarius. These are the two most evolved signs, and they really like Pisces really sees the world through rose-colored glasses, and Aquarius is the philosopher, and they're both kind of like weird, but in good ways. I've seen, even though like you're really not supposed to, like water and air is not supposed to go together, and you're really not supposed to be with someone like in romantic relationships of the sign right next to you. Pisces and Aquarius, though, I've seen go differently. There's like something about they both have like such a deep understanding of their own emotions usually, and also of just like sitting back and letting people be who they are. And so with retrogrades, like that means that the planet is seemingly moving backwards through these signs. So when we kind of start out, it's going to be a nice little Jupiter and Pisces, like very loving. Both these signs are very expansive. There's some dreaminess to Pisces. So I feel like it's gonna really kind of bring up more creative goals, or it's gonna bring up like those like secret subconscious goals and visions for your life that you want. And then it's gonna show and then as it's moving in Aquarius, we're really gonna be looking at how do we make that a reality? What are the things that have happened to you, especially during this entire, and we're only in Cancer season, Aries season is the beginning of the astrological season, and there's so much that has happened, and so much of clearing the way for everybody to really kind of show you where you're supposed to be. It just felt like a little bit more direct energy after the last year of the pandemic and us not knowing what's going to happen, where are we going to be, and it's still feeling a little bit like we're still not sure what the future looks like, but we're all personally kind of getting a little bit more focused on just who we want to be and how we want to show up in this world and what kind of impact do we want to make. And so we're really going to keep diving into that, which is really cool. As we go on, we're just going to get deeper and deeper into ourselves and more connected to the natural energies of the world. And there's a lot of just powerful transitions going on. And I'm sure you felt a lot of that. Gemini season was just full of so much energy. And it really challenged our communication with ourselves, with each other, really looking at, how things can be improved. Do you want to improve them? Do you just need to walk away from this? Do you need to let people walk away? So there's so many, I don't want to say challenges, definitely challenges that come up from it, but a lot of reflections about the duality of life, the spectrum of life, looking at our cognitive dissonance, having to look at that, and also sometimes having to hold two different ideas at the same time and trying to find the middle ground of them. A lot of alchemic, mercurial. I love that word, but I can never say it. Mercurial, which is perfect. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. We had a really strong Mercury in retrograde in Gemini. So It's meant, these things are meant to move you. It's meant to shake you up so that you're not stuck where you're not supposed to be. So, let me know where you're at. Let me know how retrograde went for you. Comment below. And then one last thing before we get into your tarot scope. I want to talk about where Cancer shows up in tarot. In the major arcana, Cancer is represented by the Chariot. I love the Chariot. The Chariot's one of my favorites. The Chariot actually showed up to me when it told me that we were supposed to be in this house. We just were so torn when we were house hunting that I started pulling cards for each house, like when we thought we were going to make an offer, like what's this supposed to be? And it was crazy how clear it was that, like, no, this is not it. And then Chariot came up for where we were supposed to be, home. And I feel like the Chariot and the Four of Wands are like the ultimate, like, home cards. Like you are like where you're supposed to be. Home is where the heart is, all that sort of thing. And the Chariot is representative of Cancer because, like the Chariot, the crab carries its home wherever it goes. And Cancer is really good at that. Cancer is the baby water sign. They're the first water sign in astrology. And so their personal relationships and their home life is very important for them. And they really want to feel comfortable wherever they are. So they have a tendency to really seek out those environments and people that are going to make them feel comfortable and at home. And so if you have a Cancer in your life, you probably have seen what can happen when they don't feel stable. They can be very emotional because they are a water sign. And unfortunately, they are known as they can be known as a little bit of a crybaby of the astrology when they're in their shadow. But they are very loving, usually. I was going to say open. They're open. It takes a while for them to open up, but once they find people to open up to, the, like, floodgates just come out. So the Chariot's cool too because it's representative also of there's still some duality energy that we're even experiencing now, because we are still in the shadow of Mercury in retrograde. Over the beginning, like the first half of Cancer season, we're still being called into this duality energy and this expansion and contraction and how to be more purposeful with that, and how to be more purposeful, and to not just take any opportunity that's in front of us, and to only really go to places where we're comfortable going. And that's okay. These are a lot of what's going on too is about people learning what their own personal boundaries are. Oh, sorry, the neighbor's dogs are fighting. So, what was I going to say? Duality. Because here too with the Chariot, you have like the light and shadow representative, and sometimes it can be pulling you in different ways. But we're both. We have both. Like in indigenous traditions, they talk about like you have two wolves inside you, and which one are you going to feed? I'm sure you've heard that quote a lot. So this is very much about like choosing paths of the heart, but just like a lot of the time that's just like what feels good to you. And if there's places that you're being invited to or like opportunities that are coming to you and it just doesn't feel right, I'd say go with that. Especially now, like this is really about kind of being in our feels and not being ashamed of that. really trying to dissolve the people pleaser and putting ourselves first. And I think that can be kind of a challenge with Cancer because the people around them are so important to them, but this is going to be important for everyone because of boundaries. I remember what I was going to say earlier, because boundaries with other people are very important. But I've noticed lately that if you don't first have good boundaries with yourself, if you don't have boundaries with yourself, then how are you going to have good boundaries with other people? If you don't have boundaries set with yourself on how you're going to treat yourself or how you're going to prioritize yourself, then how can you tell somebody no when you don't want to do what they want you to do? Because then we get taken advantage of. Then we're putting ourselves in situations that are going to drain us and are not where we're supposed to be. Okay? So we're really needing, I mean, we always need to tap into this energy. I was like, well, we're really needing this Cancer energy right now. Well, of course we are. That's why we're in this cycle. Okay. So let's get into it. So I lied. One more thing before I get into your individual tarot scopes for the signs. I usually pull like a card for the collective at the end. And I know I think I pulled these last time, but I really was just called to pull one of these postcards from Spirit at the beginning for some reason. So let's do that. Dearest you, we are sending you waves of love and joy as we watch you reap the rewards of your tenacity and faith. We know how long it has taken for you to reach some of our goals, and that you've had disappointments along the way. Right now, we suggest you take a deep breath and fill yourself up with gratitude and tune into the vibration of well-being. Temporary conditions may be trying to hypnotize you into seeing something else as your reality, but we know that happy rewards are on their way to you even now. Change is the only constant, so be open to it. You will achieve your dreams and more, we promise. But more important, your happy rewards will be gathered up in the small moments, the gentle breezes, the soft kisses, and the quiet commitments. Your happiest moments will be on the journey itself, not in arriving at any destination. You are surrounded by so much love and care. Can you feel us? Oh, I love these so much. They really are like love notes from the divine and from Spirit. So funny, because that is literally the theme that we're just coming out with, is change is the only constant. And that is why we do need faith and tenacity. Faith can come up in many different ways. It's not just a religious word. We have to have faith in our families, in our jobs. We have to have trust and faith in ourselves. And trusting that things are really going to work out. It really does. The law of attraction, there really is something behind that. There really is something behind you get what you put out. Karmic law, there's so many explanations for it, different ways of expressing it, that energy. But I've definitely noticed in my many years of learning who I am spiritually and emotionally, that the more I trust things are going to work out, and I do focus on the good, and I find gratitude in for what I have, the more things work out. And I can say that because I was that person for a long time. My mom tried to tell me what the secret was when that came out, and I rolled my eyes. It's like, there's no way that this is a thing. There's no way, like, shit just happens, and I'm just doomed to have shitty things happen to me. And the more I thought that, the more they happened. And the more I realized that I got it pretty good, and I found things to be thankful for, the more that it worked out. All right, let's do this. Hi, Capricorn. How are you? Are you going to be resistant today, Capricorn? I feel like you guys are always... It's always hard for me to break through that wall. Okay, we'll save those two. We'll just see what these two say first. Okay, Four of Pentacles and the Judgment card. Now, so the Judgment card doesn't have the best name because it's not really about like judgment here on earth. This is like kind of like biblical judgment, like the Judgment Day, but this is more like in a spiritual awakening sense. Like, you see how he's like waking up all, I think technically those people are supposed to be like out of their coffins sort of thing. Like, this is an awakening, an expansiveness, to wake you out of your slumber and your like lull and wherever you feel stuck, to get you like on your path of purpose. However, we have this little guy in the way. Hi. This is very Capricorn energy, y'all. The Four of Pentacles. The Four of Pentacles is very worried about money and possessions. And you see how they just hold so like tightly. Like, I know I got it balanced. I know exactly where everything is. I know exactly what's going on. This is a very like logistic card. It's very logical. And it's funny that's coming up because I just kind of had a similar conversation with my Capricorn partner. I did not plan this. But you're holding on too tightly to your logic. And I know that's hard for you because you are intelligent and you are capable and you're independent and you're a boss. Like, you guys are boss energy. But there's like, you're still a spiritual being having a physical experience. And sometimes, oh, my back keeps itching. Sometimes, your logical brain is getting in the way of your expansive potential. Where if you tapped in a little bit more into your intuitive, emotional, spiritual side, because you guys are definitely more empathic than you give yourself credit for also, that having that peace is going to open up who you are even more than you could even imagine. It's very much feels kind of like the balancing of the masculine and the feminine, the solar and the lunar energy, where Capricorn can very much be in like the masculine, the solar energy, like task oriented. We're getting this shit done. This is what we gotta do. Check off the list. But there's the lunar feminine energy is like, how do we get there? Are we going to enjoy ourselves on the way there? Do we have snacks? Like, there needs to be a little bit more of this balance for you guys. And it's an effort because it does not come always that easily for you. But at the same time, I know you guys know how to have a good time when the time comes. So it's feeling like, though, you guys are holding, it's like you finally got things kind of like in a place, or you have a goal where you're trying to get things in a certain place. But the rigidity, how rigid you are with the way you get there, is actually holding you back from getting there. What are these other two cards? Let's look at those. Ooh. Well, more Capricorn energy. Here you are. King of Pentacles and the Hangman in reverse. So once again, you are, and the Hangman comes before the Capricorn, before the King of Pentacles. So this is just basically the same, almost the same message, but in a different way, where it's like, you need to do this. You need to tap in to the innate, intuitive, emotional, spiritual part of you. It's there. Because then it's going to elevate you to your highest self. Because he did not become the king by doing this. This guy thinks that he's a king. So he's got a little crown there. But his, like, kingdom is way off in the distance. And he's over here by himself counting his pennies. Like, I feel like this is, like, kind of like Scrooge McDuck. But he doesn't have the vault that he's swimming in because he just, like, held even too tightly to his stuff. And he was so frugal. But this is the real king here. Look how his abundance is right there around him. Because he not only applied the structure and the logistics to it, but he applied his intuition and his higher thinking and his higher feeling and knowing and trusting. He's done the work. And it's in reverse. So again, you're not doing the work to get here. Your rigidity is holding you back from being in the spiritual place, and you need to be in the spiritual place to get to your highest self. Yep. Bing bang boom for you today, Capricorn. They knew what you wanted to hear. I'm sorry. They knew what you needed to hear. So let me know. Let me know how this goes for you. How are you? You know, there's a little bit of like a feeling of needing to blow off steam in a way, but it needs to be in like a purposeful way. Like it needs to be like you're applying like time and love to like your hobby, not just like going out and partying. I know you like to party, I know you like to have a good time, but like there's more purposeful ways to blow off steam. This is about getting in touch with like who you want to be in this life and who your best highest self is, and how like dynamic you truly are. Moonology Oracle deck. Did I say that already? Yasmin Boland. I just pulled it. Full moon. Surrender to the divine. That's why I love these oracle cards, y'all. Because it just like, I can say whatever. Like, I can say whatever I wanted about these cards. But these always, sometimes they're real serious with their train horns. These always confirm. This is always the confirmation. So I feel like they're not even for me so much as they are for you. You need to see. Okay, where is that? Here it goes. Surrender to the divine. The very word climax brings all sorts of ideas and images to mind. Agreed? But it really is the feeling of this card. Life is coming to a head, a point, a conclusion, or a turning point. There may be some kind of change and possibly even some sort of emotional explosion. Tune into your emotions now and see what they're telling you. They're very likely close to the surface, no matter when in the moon cycle you've pulled this card. Matters will soon conclude and you'll find out whether or not your wishes are going to come true. The odds are in your favor, as this is a positive card, but you may need to work harder than usual to keep cool as events unfold. Attuning to this moon, I am getting the answers I need. That's a great, trusting affirmation for you guys. I am getting the answers I need, or I trust I will get the answers that I need. Additional meanings: a wish you made may be about to come true. It's make or break time. There could be a sense of madness in the air. Breathe deep and stay calm. We're coming out of that madness. You may need to forgive someone to release negative energy. And it's time to let go of the past and move on. The full moon marks the climax of the lunar cycle, making this card something of a power card. The full moon is often the time when answers are given to questions asked during the new moon. And pulling this card at any time in the lunar cycle suggests answers will be coming your way before too long. And we just had that new moon eclipse on the 11th, the 10th, or the 11th. So think back to the 10th, 11th of June. And what were you asking for? What do you really want? What are you meant to do? What are you meant to achieve? How are you going to become your highest self? You can do it, Capricorn. You're meant to. Meant to be the boss. Meant to be the king. No matter your gender, we can all be king. All right. Thanks, Capricorn. I will see you in Leo season. Well, that is your Taroscope for Cancer season 2021. Thank you again so much for being here. Please be sure to subscribe, hit that little notification bell, like, comment, share. I want as many people to know all of it. I am here for you. Hope to see you next time. Bye.